Something strange has happened in the culture. Some of the most privileged people to ever walk the earth now talk about their trauma in a way that would make World War I soldiers blush. My truth has become a normal part of the lexicon, as if it wasn't a fucking paradox. We've become a well-fed, well-sheltered horde, patting ourselves on the back for each morning that we're able to roll out of bed. And I think I know who the culprit is. If you ever want to know the full story, follow the money. Want to know what pro sports, Hollywood, the US airline market, and the cosmetics industry all have in common? They're all dwarfed by the size of the US mental health services market, which was around $120 billion last year. Now this is where I dial back the polemic to say obviously some of this spending is good. Mental health is real and affects your physical health. Some people have been through some shit they should talk about. But when your sadness is a part of someone's profit and loss statement, you should worry. And this is a sector that grew by around $15 billion last year. That's a faster growth rate than Amazon or Apple. So I think it's fair to wonder, is this because we're finally meeting a human need that was never met previously, or because there's a buck to be made? I especially have therapists in my sight here rather than hospitals or substance abuse clinics. I mean, private practice therapists in the US generally achieve a profit margin twice that of other mental health services, and sometimes up to 40%. So, how do we get here? Here's my simple take. Two things have happened. The first is that the threshold for people believing that they need to go to therapy has fallen to zero. Right now, I'm struggling to fill my fingers with people I know who haven't been to therapy or talked about it like a future necessity, as though it was paying into a pension or something. Age here plays a big role. The data shows that around 35% of Millennials and Gen Z have ever been to therapy versus just over 20% of baby boomers. And while a third of Gen Z is thinking about it in the future, 80% of baby boomers aren't. There's an element of younger generations rightfully thinking about their mental health in a way that older generations don't. But here's a view you almost never hear nowadays. You might not need therapy. If you've been through some horrible experience in your life, like abuse, or seen terrible things through your work, I can totally understand therapy is on your to-do list. But if your experience in life has been in line with most people, i.e. average, you might be fine. That bad breakup, your distant mother, the recurring bully in the lunch queue, back at school, I get that they were bad experiences, but they're also totally normal. Then there's the stuff that will happen in the future. The jerk for a boss, the unexpected layoff, the divorce. Sometimes it is real trauma. Other times, they're just shitty experiences that will pass. Bad things will happen in life regardless of how mindful and self-aware you are. Over-pathologizing that can make things worse. So get therapy if you want to, just don't feel that you need to. The second element is how long people go to therapy for. So take those examples above. I wouldn't blame someone for wanting to talk about them. For an hour, 2 hours, maybe 5. But a large patient study found that the average time frame for therapy is just under 6 months. That equates to around 40 full sessions. That's 2 full days talking about yourself, plus enough time to watch Titanic. What's more, the same study found that 1 in 4 people were still attending therapy after 11 months. For sure, there'll be therapists with integrity that stop you when they think you don't need them anymore. But the economics of therapy provides zero incentive for therapists to wrap things up quickly versus protract things for a paycheck. You wouldn't trust a lawyer billing you by the hour to work as quickly as they can, nor would you trust a private doctor not to upsell more consultations and treatments. Yet somehow we project a higher standard of esteem onto therapists working under the same model. There's also a question as to whether therapy helps beyond a certain point. The journalist Abigail Schreier made a good point on the Joe Rogan podcast that incessantly talking about bad things that happen to you can sometimes lead to rumination and reinforce the feeling of helplessness. And I think this is all starting to cut through into the culture. Yes, people want to keep an eye on their mental health, but more of us are seeing that therapy can be a rabbit hole with no pot of gold or special revelation at the end. Online searches for Stoicism, which could be characterized as a polar opposite philosophy, have increased by 400% on Reddit and X. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations has become the Bible for self-improvement YouTubers, from Austin to Dubai. Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic newsletter reaches 3 million followers, and he's the driving force behind a wider ecosystem of content creators preaching greater self-reliance, rationality, and emotional resilience. And while I don't think the answer for everyone facing life's challenges is to go full Jocko Willink,
she's dead.
Good.
People should remember that they're tougher than they think. Remember that the odds of you even being here are extremely remote, and only possible because you have ancestors that survived war, pillage, and famine. Remember that next time the office makes you come in an extra day a week. I believe in you. Drop a comment in the chat, I'd love to hear what you think. Am I being too hard or too kind to therapy? Let me know.